Good morning, everyone. I participated in a game jam about a little bit ago, and I wanted to share it with you all. Before I start, I'd like to apologize first. While I was making the game, I completely forgot to document a lot of the process. So, I'll be mostly showing you the game after it's already completed, or reenactments. Sorry about that. Either way, the game jam I was a part of was called Godot Wild Jam, and apparently this was number 56. They run monthly, so they've been around for quite a long time. The challenge this time was to match the theme of the jam within what was a little over a week while working in Godot. The theme this time was... There were some wild cards, which are optional themes and challenges, but I didn't end up trying to implement any of those. Trust me when I say that the game I chose to make already came down to the wire as it was. I didn't want to add extra things to it that was going to make it worse. After talking about it with some friends and family, I went with the idea to make a game like Rampage, which is a really old arcade game. The twist? Both monsters are now competing with each other so you can destroy the most stuff in a 1v1 setting, as opposed to it being level-based. It ended up being a pretty unique concept after doing a little bit of research. So, my first couple of days were setting up systems. Main stage, player controllers that were also multiplayer compatible, functional buildings that break and get destroyed, and a score system. After that, the majority of the work actually ended up just being the art. There were solid days I worked on this, and all it was me drawing animation in frames and artwork, and I didn't even touch Godot. Around this time, I figured I had to just set aside the majority of the rest of the time to making art. I didn't actually stop making art until the very end of the jam. Since this was very character-driven as far as games go, I sat down and just drew concept art first. I knew I wanted two different types of characters. My first thoughts were, Godzilla versus King Kong. I tried drawing some stuff for a Kong-like character, both on paper and digitally, but I never really ended up liking any of these and the way I was able to draw them. I just kind of gave up on them, to be honest. Making human characters was never exactly my strong suit. The other character was supposed to be an analog for Godzilla, and a good friend of mine, Tony, he said, what if he had stretchy arms and slapped you like some of those slap hand sticky toys? Another solid Tony banger, I have to admit. I sat down and drew some sketches of what I think that could have looked like, even toyed with the idea of having his hand on the tail, but in the end I settled on this little guy right here. My only real frame of reference for big stretchy hands and arms, other than going out and just buying them, was this old Pokemon fan game called Pokemon Type Wild. It's a fighting game, and in there is a Pokemon called Breloom, and Breloom has really stretchy arms in this game. So I used that as my reference when making the slap attacks. I knew I wanted 3 different types of attacks per character. A light attack, a heavy attack, and a super move you can do after your super bar is filled. It took me about 3 whole days to fully animate the first character, Slapzilla. After that, I looked at the amount of time I had left, which was like a few days, and just decided that I needed to pull the oldest trick in the book, recoloring sprites. It took me a while, but I ended up making all the animations done for the second character too, with a couple of his own animations for the super and losing to at least differentiate him a little bit. The second character is supposed to be like a mecha version, right? Kind of like Mecha Godzilla. So Mecha Slapzilla.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I know, I'm not funny. I'm sorry. After getting both characters fully implemented, I ended up on the final day, 2 days, on the final couple of days, with a race against the clock to fully implement menus, final game modes, and polish with some sound effects and particles. I used a program called Chiptone to generate these retro-sounding sound effects that I felt fit the game. This program doesn't exactly work for every game, but it's nice to have for small jams like this. After that, I found a track from Kevin MacLeod, everybody knows him, that sounded nice, and then just threw it together. After that, I hooked it all up with some particles that I threw together in about 20 minutes, and now we have a full game. On the last hour, I had some trouble exporting to the web build that they were asking for, but with some help from Back at 50 Feet and their Discord, I was able to get this working and fully playable on itch.io in the browser. If you'd like to play it, check the description. Link's right there. It's been a little while since the release, and during the voting period, I got some very good feedback on how I can improve to it or add it. Speaking of the voting, the game scored a number 7 overall placement, which is a lot higher than I would have thought. You know what? I had a ton of fun working on this project, and I'd like to add a lot more to polish it up. perhaps touch up the art and the code a bit so it runs a little better. Don't forget to give it a play, let me know what you think, and I'll see you next month for the next devlog or anything else I intend to make. If you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe. It means a lot, trust me.